Welcome to the Swedish Maker. Today I'm turning these into these. I have these monitors and they are ugly, but they are quite cheap off of Amazon and they have great reviews. And they don't fit my desk setup, so I'm going to turn them into something else. So the plan is to open them up, see what's inside, measure the inside, draw it up in Fusion, and then I can head into the workshop to build something better. I opened the speakers up to be able to get some good measurements. The plan is to use the same cut of wood as I did for the desk I made, which is birch. So I have a plan and let's head into the workshop. I started by cutting the miters for the box with the table saw and the miter gauge. I use a digital angle gauge to set the saw to 45 degrees, and I found that to be the best way to get accurate miters. I used a combination square to set the height of the blade on the table saw to match the thickness of the front panel and the back panel, and then I just went with multiple passes on the table saw to remove the material. I could then go ahead and glue up the passive speakers. I taped the back sides together, flipped it around, added glue, and then just clamped it up with a belt clamp. While that was drying, I could cut a hole in one of the sides for the active speaker. This is going to hold the panel controlling volume, bass, and treble. I drilled holes in the corners and then I used a jigsaw to cut it out. And then I could glue up that box as well. So I've cut the hole in here, and the next thing I'm going to do is make the most inner front panel out of some 8mm MDF, and it's going to hold the speakers like this, but they're not going to be visible, so it doesn't really matter how it looks. And this little plasticky thing that I think is for pressure release or something. I'm not that good with speakers, but yeah, I need that as well. So I'm just going to sneak up on this MDF with the table saw until I get a snug fit in this hole right here. I didn't have drill bits the same size as the speakers, so I used this circle cutter for the bandsaw that can be adapted to whatever size necessary. I'll have links to everything I've used down in the description. Alright, so the box is finished and this piece is finished, which is going to hold the speakers in place. And on top of that, I am going to have some aluminium covering it up. But before I can use this, I need to cut it to size, and I'm actually going to paint it as well. So this aluminium is only 1mm thick, and I'm worried about it kind of wobbling and creating distortions in the sound. So I'm going to cover it up, or it's going to be covered with this 6mm plywood as well. So I'm going to cut them both to size to fit the hole, and then I can worry about how I'm going to attach all of this in the front. So let's get cutting the front. Alright, so the next step is to drill holes in the aluminium, and I'm going to use this template that I just printed off. I'll probably just tape it on here and then I'll use this, I don't know what it's called, but it makes small dents in the metal, so it'll be easier to drilling out all of the holes. And since this is just 1mm aluminium, I need something beneath it when I'm drilling all the holes, otherwise it's going to create a lot of dents in the aluminium. So this is quite tedious, but hopefully it will look good. Alright, so what I did there was I drilled the hole in this plywood backplate because I want the audio getting out, but I still want the stability from the plywood onto the aluminium. And then I just glued the aluminium to the plywood with some 5-minute epoxy, and that will hopefully keep it straight enough. So what I'm going to do now is remove this protective film and paint the aluminium in a green color. So I'm going to start with a primer, and then I can go on with the color. And then I think the front panels are about done. All they need is a couple of holes in them to be able to attach it to the main speaker later. But for now, I'm going to paint these. I think I might use a paper bag or something just to prevent it from getting all dusty. Yeah. While the paint was drying, I started working on the back part of the speakers. I cut them to size with the table saw. On one of the back parts I needed to make a recess for the back plate to sit in, so I 3D printed a small jig that I could use with a guide bush on the router. I used double-sided tape to attach the 3D printed jig onto the back piece, and then I went to town with it. I could then use the jigsaw to cut out the hole. On the other back piece, I just drilled 2 holes to be able to attach the speaker cable attachment. I sanded the boxes up to 300 grit sandpaper and finished them off with a white pigmented hard wax oil to match the desk I made. I attached the speakers to the MDF and attached it to the speaker with glue and some brad nails. I drilled holes onto the speaker front that I could attach to the MDF with some nice brass bolts. Alright, so it's time to turn them on, and I hope they work. I really hope they work. And I can control the volume right here, of course. this will fit perfectly on my desk along with my birch desk, of course. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.